Well, hey, howdy, hi. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for stopping by to join me today. I really do appreciate it. My name is Ellie, and I'm a witch. And this over here is my teaching assistant, Andy. And today is Monday, and on my channel that means it is Misheard History. Today's Misheard History topic is going to be the 3 Defenestrations of Prague. Most people will have heard of at least one of the Defenestrations of Prague. That's a very popular topic currently. However, most people don't know that there's actually 3 and technically more. However, I will just be talking about the main 3, so without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the video. So kind of what got me into this topic was that I have seen countless times posts on Reddit or Tumblr about how it's so crazy that English has a word for throwing someone out a window, but not for the day after tomorrow. And I think it's a funny post all around, and it never truly fails to make me laugh. For those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about, the English word for throwing somebody out of a window is defenestration. Also though, English does have words for both the day after tomorrow and the day before yesterday, being overmorrow and higher yesterday respectively. The more you know. But today we are focusing on defenestration, specifically the 3 defenestrations of Prague. Now I was only familiar with the one, as I said, and the general consensus is that the phrase defenestration of Prague refers to the 3rd event only, but there were 3 in total. So I'll just go over them in order for you. So the first defenestration took place in 1419. The first event involved killing multiple members of the city council by Czech Hussites on July 30th. To explain that a little bit, the Hussites were members of the Proto-Protestant Christian movement. This term is specifically for Protestantism before 1517. Back to the defenestration. Jan Żywlicki, a Hussite priest in the Church of the Virgin Mary of the Snows, led his congregation through the streets of the new town hall, which is the administrative center, on Charles Square. The council members were refusing to release or exchange them the Hussite prisoners. While the Hussites were marching on the street, a stone was supposedly thrown from a window and reportedly hit Jan. This enraged the congregation and they stormed the town hall. The group then defenestrated the judge, burgomaster, who is the chief magistrate, and several other members of the council. All were killed in the fall from the window. After hearing the news, King Wenceslaus IV of Bohemia was so stunned that he died shortly after, reportedly from shock. Now, one of the big driving factors in this event is the rising tensions between peasants and the church. Religious leaders like Jan saw the church as corrupt, and so the message was being spread, which led to more outrage. The first defenestration helped lead to the prolonged Hussite Wars, also called the Hussite Civil War. The next defenestration took place on September 24th of 1483. This took place during the reign of King Vladislaus II of Hungary, who was king of Bohemia. The actual event took place when the party of the communion of both kinds took place. Now, from what I understand, that has something to do with Christianity and Eucharism and the whole Christ's body is bread and wine thing. If you do have a better explanation for that, please let me know, because I'm not Christian or Eucharist, as is likely obvious. Anyways. This party sparked fear in the people, and a violent coup was carried out in the Old, New, and Lesser Town. The Old Town burgomaster and the remains of 7 new town council members were defenestrated. Now, the last of the 3 events happened in 1618 and was actually a factor that led to the 30 Years' War. A little background though as to what actually led to the defenestration. Going back to 1555, the Augsburg Settlement settled religious disputes in the Holy Roman Empire by the principle of whose realm their religion, which is this in Italian. It is the idea that the religion of the ruler dictates the religion of the subject, and was actually a crucial part of the West desiring and fighting for religious freedom. Now, the Kingdom of Bohemia was governed by Habsburg kings since 1526 who had not forced their Catholic religion on their predominantly Protestant subjects. In 1609, though, Rudolf II, Holy Roman Emperor and King of Bohemia, increased the rights of Protestants, and for it he was largely seen as unfit to rule. Other members of the Habsburg dynasty declared his younger brother Matthias to be family head in 1606. Now, Matthias began to take territory from Rudolf, starting with Hungary. In response, Rudolf issued the Letter of Majesty in 1609. The letter granted Bohemia's largely Protestant estates to establish a Protestant Bohemian state church. Once Rudolf died, Matthias took control, but there was some issues with this. He was already an older gentleman and was childless. To help with the childlessness, he appointed his nephew, Ferdinand of Styria, as his heir and had him elected king in 1617. Now, Ferdinand was a champion of the Catholic revival, also called the Catholic Counter-Reformation. This meant he was unlikely to take kindly and allow the Protestants to continue as they had been. While Matthias had sought to appease the Protestants who had raised the point of the Letter of Majesty, the letter said that Protestant estates had the right to control the township, and they felt that it applied to the king's land as well. Ferdinand did not agree with his predecessor, though, and in 1618 called for a halt on construction of new Protestant churches on royal land. When the Protestants tried to get a group together for protest, Ferdinand called for it to be disbanded. The actual event took place on May 23rd of 1618. 4 Catholic Lord Regents met at the Chancellery around 8:30 a.m. At 9 a.m., 3 main Protestant estates gathered, led by Count Thurn. Thurn wanted to clarify if the 4 lords were meeting to persuade the emperor to call for a cease on construction of Protestant churches on royal land. Now, this is a direct excerpt of an account by the Count of Martise. Lord Paul Roxane read aloud a letter with the following approximate contents. His Imperial Majesty has sent to their Grace the Lord Regents a sharp letter that was, by our request, issued to us as a copy after the original had been read aloud, and in which His Majesty declared all of our lives and honor already forfeit, thereby greatly frightening all 3 Protestant estates. As they also absolutely intended to proceed with the execution against us, we came to a unanimous agreement amongst ourselves that regardless of any loss of life and limb, honor, and property, we would stand firm, with all for one and one for all. Nor would we be subservient, but rather we would loyally help and protect each other from the utmost against all difficulty. Because, however, it is clear that such a letter came about through the advice of some of our religious enemies, we wish to know, and hereby ask the Lord Regents present, if all or some of them knew this letter, recommended it, and approved it. Now, before the regents gave any answer, they asked the Protestants to give them time to confer with their superior, Adam von Waldstein, who was not present. If given the opportunity, the regent said the Protestants would have their answer by Friday. Now, for reference, I believe it was Wednesday when they offered this arrangement. The Protestants, however, demanded an immediate answer. At this point, 2 regents, Adam II von Sternberg and Matthew Leopold Popel Lobkowitz, were deemed to be too pious and therefore too innocent by the Protestants and were removed from the room. The 2 regents left were Count Wilhelm Slavata of Cholm and Count Joroslav Brovita of Martinice. Thurn said to the 2 men, quote, "You are enemies of us and of our religion, have desired to deprive us of our letter of majesty, have horribly plagued your Protestant subjects, and have tried to force them to adopt your religion against their wills or have them expelled for this reason." End quote. Turning to the Protestants, he said, quote, "Were we to keep these men alive, then we would lose the letter of majesty and our religion, for there can be no justice to be gained from or by them." End quote. Both regents and their secretary were then defenestrated. After this event, the Protestants and the Habsburgs were gaining allies for a war. Matthias died in 1619 and Ferdinand took over, but was deposed and replaced by Frederick V, who was a leading Calvinist, which is a branch of Protestantism. The problem with this is that the Protestants deposed a legally chosen king, one who happened to be empire, and therefore were unable to gain international support. 2 years after the Defenestration, Ferdinand and the Catholics were able to regain control in the Battle of White Mountain, which is also known as the First Battle of the 30 Years' War. And that is all that I have for you today. This one was a fun one, because obviously, a lot of people have heard about the singular, the third, I guess, Defenestration of Prague. Defenestration is also just a really fun word. But researching it, I didn't know that there was 3, and that was really kind of cool. And technically there are more, they just really aren't considered. Yeah, this one was a fun one. If you guys have any other random weird cases, please let me know in the comments. I should start putting my recommendation forms back in the description, but maybe next week. I did have to say thank you for all the new Coven members. I'm 1 subscriber away from 100. That's crazy for me to think about because that's a lot of people. But yeah, thank you. Also, thank you to the person who corrected my pronunciation from last week's Misheard history. I was saying synod when it's synod. So my apologies for that, and thank you for that correction. Genuinely, if I ever say something wrong and get something wrong fact-wise, please let me know. I'm here to learn just as much as anybody else, and I don't particularly want to spread misinformation. So yeah, aside from that, tomorrow I'm going to be talking about Brian Schickman for Tea Time and True Crime, and then on Saturday we're going to have our first Dark Deeds and Demons episode, which is going to be my Halloween series. I will be talking about the South End werewolf, which I believe is Irish or British. I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head, But Andy and I will both be in costumes, and we think it's going to be a really fun time if you want to stop by for that. If not, I do have my video coming up tomorrow, and then the next video will be on Monday for Misheard History on my regular series. I am going to be skipping Sunday's upload. But enough ramble. I hope that you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.